All right, guys, welcome back in Inside the Pawalu here. Like we start every podcast with a Bible verse, and today's verse led us to Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. I also want to throw in the other verse that I had for the day, Romans 8:18. So the word of God states, yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will reveal to us later. Romans 8:18. And with that being said, I'm with
Sabrina Aguilar.
Well, thank you for stopping by and coming on the podcast. Kind of a little funny story. It was the first day of school, and I was picking up my daughter, and I saw a buddy of mine, and then I happened to see Miss Aguilar, and I walked up to her, and I said, "Hey, would you like to do a podcast?" And before I could finish, like, "Yes," and I was like, "Wow, that was easy, right?" But it's kind of, I was trying to explain to you that I've had on Mendota, the mayor, and the city council member.
Yeah.
They talked about autism awareness. We had on the mayor, Freddie Valdez.
Yep.
He talked about autism awareness. And then I have some friends and family that, they have kids that are on the spectrum or would consider autism. I even at one point even thought my son had a version of it because it ended up being speech. So when I brought you on, I really wanted to educate myself, one, but also the people out there, right? I mean, do you kind of get asked a lot that you were, you being an autism teacher, like, hey, how do you know? Or do they kind of question as far as like students that have it?
They do. And it's kind of, I'm young, 27, no kids, right? Some of these people who want my advice are moms, they've had multiple children. This might be their last child. And so they're looking for these tips on, okay, well, my son is 3 years old and he's not, nonverbal, or he's walking on his tippy toes. Are those early signs? And, there can be early signs younger than that. And it just honestly just depends on the child. And it's awesome to kind of see everybody's journey and just the autism world, because it's just so big. And I love what I do, and I get to see like behind the scenes of some of it too. I'm a teacher inside of the classroom, but you're in the store and you just see. I was talking to a friend the other day, and a young boy was with his mom, and she wanted to go to a store. They were in Ulta or something, and he had a bowl of like these cotton balls, and walking down the aisle, he's just flipping them, and she has to do her errands. And when I hear stories or when I see that, it's like, I know what you're going through, and it's really awesome to see.
Before we jump into like obviously talking about it, let's kind of talk about you, right?
Yeah.
So how did you, obviously you already revealed your age. I didn't ask, but you're, being young.
Yeah.
How did you kind of get into teaching? Is it something that you wanted to do at an early age, or how did that kind of break that down to us?
When I was thinking about this, I thought of the movie Matilda.
Oh, okay.
And Miss Honey.
Yeah.
She's kind. She's all about her students. And I had a similar experience in first grade with Miss Ovias.
Okay.
And she's still in our district.
Okay.
And I feel like Faribault has we have really great educators, right? And some of these educators were my old teachers. And now I get to work alongside them. They're like our vice principals, and life is just full circle. But I had her in first grade, and I always remember her. She was kind. She's, just awesome. The perfect word is awesome. And when I was in high school, we had AVID. It was like a readiness for college.
Okay.
And we had Mr. McCall. And he said, okay, so in 5 years, you're going to write a letter to yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I had two things when I was young. I wanted to work at Target, and I wanted to go to Fresno State. And I needed to go to college, but I didn't know kind of where I wanted to go. And I thought of her. And it was just like instant. Okay, well, how am I going to get there? And it wasn't until high school where I kind of understood, autism and the classroom, the special ed class. And I was just like, maybe that's something I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to college, Fresno State, and
you manifested it.
I did. I really did. And it's just an awesome point in my life to where I can say, you know, I knew I wanted to be a teacher because I had a great educator. And so sometimes you hear, oh my gosh, I had a third grade teacher who was so bad or so good. And it's just,
that's so true.
It's those people that make a really big impact on you and where you are now. And I think I seen her my first year teaching and I just cried. I gave her a hug and I just cried because I really wouldn't be here without somebody like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really great story because I can kind of relate a little bit as far as teachers that I remember.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Miss Boynoff, shout out if you ever watch the podcast. And then Miss Ward,
Okay.
right? Because I was from Mendota.
Yeah.
Right? And then I got to give shout out to Lardo's Pizza. Mr. Rossetti was a great teacher. I don't even know how I passed geometry. Don't tell me, right? And then just people like that, you know. If I'm missing some people, I'm so sorry. But there's great education. And you really, it does give you a certain like. When I think of those, it goes back to those people.
Yeah.
Right. And kind of like how, you know, yourself.
Yeah.
And okay. So kind of touching on that. So did we ever work at Target?
No, we didn't.
Oh, okay.
But I do love Target.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I got it.
But now I spend all of my classroom money on supplies. And so it kind of works out, I guess.
No, Target is, you know, I'm going to be honest, having a little girl now, it's different.
Yeah.
It's very, it makes me tell myself, like, I never want the high school version of myself to talk to my daughter.
Yeah.
So it makes me definitely treat my wife, women in general, and her, because it's like you just want to be a better person, you know, because at the end of the day, girls in general are so fragile. We were remember I was telling you how we started this Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
And, you know, my boy, I can be a little rough, you know, on him and in general boys. And so he had made me a little upset. Right. And so he did something and, you know, I'm a little tougher on him.
Yeah.
And so my little girl was like, Dad, you're being mean, you know? And I'm just like, and then she starts crying.
Oh.
She's like, you guys are all being mean. And then I was like, you're right.
Yeah.
We are being mean. Right. So then I told my son, sorry. I don't even know why I apologized to her and my wife, but I was like, just for being mean. Yeah. And it makes you really understand, like, wow, you know, and that just as a father, that softens you up, right? So I can just imagine how as a teacher, and especially kind of, you know, I don't want to skip. I definitely want to know how you kind of came up, but it makes you just be different, right? And, you know, especially like I think, you know, and I don't want to specifically call any kids out, but, you know, there's a specific child that you have in your class. And that little boy has like a special attachment to me for sure. One, because I'm friends with his parents, but like when I come around him, you know, he doesn't really like to, I don't say everybody, but he'll come up and give me a hug. And it's like, it just makes me feel like, wow.
Yeah. I think there's a quote that says like, if you met somebody with autism, then you met somebody with autism. Like that does not change who they are.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And some of these students I've had in the past or anywhere, they're some of the most sweetest, kindest people ever. And it's just, they just melt your heart.
Yeah. They truly do. Yes.
Yeah.
And okay, so now let's kind of jump back in, right? Okay. So you obviously we manifested Fresno State.
Right.
So we graduate and
graduated in 2016. And
that was a good year.
That was a good year. Great year.
That was the year I promoted.
Really?
Yeah. So
I graduated and I remember 2 weeks before I moved to Fresno because I moved to Fresno and I needed to get my license, right? I'm born
like your driver's license.
My driver's license, born and raised in Fireball. This is all I know. This is my home, right? I have my parents here. My grandparents are here. Aunts and uncles are here. If I want to go visit my grandma, 2 minutes down the road.
Okay.
Right. And so
that's a blessing.
Oh yeah. And so we were looking at apartments and it finally hit me like, wow, like this is what I've been dreaming of and it's finally here. And the week before I moved in, I was upset. I was crying because it's like, this is all I've known and I'm starting my life. I've dreamed of this, but also how am I going to live in a big city, right? Because Fireball is, you go to Dollar General and you you run into your friend, right? You run into your students there. Yes. It's just so small. And where I felt I was going to Fresno like a fish out of water, kind of.
Yeah.
It was really hard. And I remember I called my parents and I'm like, I just want to go back home. But then my dad said, you worked so hard to get to this point in your life. Why are you going to stop now? And I remember that. And I'll always, like, in any little hardship that I have, why do I have to stop? There's so much that I can do. And so moved to Fresno, and there was a class that I had to take, and I'm kind of getting into
take your time.
But I had a intro to special ed class.
Okay.
And I needed to take 96 hours to observe in a class. And I lived maybe 5 minutes down the high school that I was going to go observe in. And our family friend is a psychologist there. So she kind of, okay, well, this is a big school. There's tons of buildings, and you'll find your way. You'll be good. And I remember I told my mom, I was on the phone. I think I had like a half of a granola bar that day because I was just so scared. Because here in Fireball, it's small. Everybody knows everybody. You walk into the office and there's your tia, it's just so small. So I remember I just walked into the campus, and, she's walking me down the hallway and, preparing me, and I kind of prepared myself. And I remember she opened up that door, and it felt like a light was just shining in that class. It felt like home. And I've never had that feeling ever. But right when I stepped in, it was just like, this is where I'm supposed to be. And ever since then, I never looked back.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to tell that story. That's probably not like the best like definition of like, no, this is what you want to do.
It's really good.
Yeah. It was just something that
you found your purpose really, fast.
Yeah.
And then kind of like, before we kind of jump into it, I guess I ask every guest that comes on now is like, what's your relationship like with the Lord?
I questioned a lot of it because it was like, is this the right path for me? Do I want to go back home? Do I want to do something else with my life? But he was pointing me into the right direction. And even now, it's like every road leads to home. And he paved the way.
Yeah.
And at first I didn't know. I questioned, okay, God, you please tell me, is this the right path for me? Yeah, I won't know now, but I'm sure later on down the road, I'll know, I'll understand. I've got to get through all these hardships and, just struggle. And sure enough, I made it through.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'm going to have to tie my favorite verse.
Yeah.
So Isaiah 60:22. So when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen.
Awesome.
So you kind of talk about path and purpose and all that. And it's like, in a way, I was like, now I know why this is happening, this interview, because that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure things, and I'm not as young as you. I'm a little older, but I look at it like I have a lot of experience, and the resume can speak for itself as far as, I can interview people because I have an understanding. Like I've lived a little bit of life, right? I've understand working in a jail/prison.
Yeah.
You get to see people's struggles. You get to see people's, it's a weird, because you can see the wins and the losses, and it's daily. Right. Yeah. The wins meaning somebody beats a case and they're going to go home. The losses, somebody's going to go do a lot of time. Right. And same thing with officers. You promote into a unit, you don't get it, or you go here, you do this and a lot of stuff. Right. Yeah. And so I just really wanted to thank you for really, now I get it. I understand why the Lord allowed it. Now I know why you said yes so fast. Right.
I did.
And so,
I don't even think you even finished your sentence.
You
did it.
I was like, wow, that was too easy.
Yeah.
Which is great. I even walked away. I told this that was cool. And I want to thank you once again for coming on.
Thank you.
So, okay, now we're back at, you find what I liked about it, because you said the light.
Yeah.
That's why you're kind of like, this podcast is already going so smoothly, setting me up for the questions. Right. So, okay, you finish your hours, then I'm assuming, and you finish your my credential. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you just knew like Fireball was the spot.
Well,
Or was there kind of like
there was a little bit of hardship there. Okay. The day before I graduated, I just found out that I wasn't accepted into the credential program at Fresno State.
Oh, okay.
And I remember just being so sad. And I look back on pictures because I have a family photo inside of my class. And I just remember seeing her like that was probably like the most happiest I've been, but also the saddest because it was like, what do I do? I worked so hard to get here. I know where I want to go, but how am I going to get there? Right. And so I found out that I wasn't going to be, I didn't get accepted into the credential program. And I remember Fresno State, maybe 2 weeks before graduation, I posted my grad photos. McKenna, actually your son's old teacher.
Oh yeah,
Christensen.
Yes,
she took my graduation photos.
Really?
Yeah, and
she was amazing, by the way.
Oh yeah. She's awesome. She took my grad photos, and Fresno State somehow happened to see my graduation photos, and they were doing like a senior spotlight. So there I go, all excited. Okay, I'm gonna send my best senior photo. And they said, where do you want to go? After you graduate Fresno State, what are your plans? And I remember I said, I want to give back to my community. That day of graduation, they posted a bunch of seniors. Somehow, the right person seen that post and called and basically had an interview within a month, less than a month after that. And so it was just God's timing, I guess, of just like, I was at my lowest, but there's always going to be somewhere, somehow, something's going to happen. Yeah. And that literally was my blessing.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really inspiring and kind of amazing that happened, and I would, if you would have never shared that, obviously we would have never known, but yeah, Miss Christensen actually was a real big blessing because when I tell you about, we were thinking Louis was on the spectrum or, on the fence, it ended up being a speech, but she was very kind and very helpful, and I thank the Lord for teachers like yourself and Miss Christensen, because it's like you said, these kids are going to remember, Gia is going through it right now where, and I'm going to give her a shout out, Miss Aguilar. I mean, Miss,
Alanise.
Yeah. Sorry. I said Aguilar.
Yeah.
Miss Alanise is amazing.
Yeah. She's been there for over 20 years.
And Gia, like to this day, we'll see her and go to run to her. Yeah. And then we're been blessed to have Miss Salcido this year. So she's, great teacher. And, it's great to, know and be involved. And like you said, having all these great educators in our district, but no, yeah, it's amazing. I'm sorry, Miss Alanise, for saying Miss Aguilar.
Yeah, the Mickey teacher, Disney lover. Yeah,
and it's and you said she's been doing it for so long.
Yeah,
and so I think it's consistency, right? And then just having like longevity.
Yes,
that's not some people think that you could do it 10, 20, 30 years. It's not that simple,
I felt like I just got hired like last year.
And now you've been in.
This is going to be my 5th year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're halfway to the tenure.
And at my first year, I was on waivers. I was at waiver after waiver permits. And it's like, okay, when am I going to get to that point where I can just teach? Because, as teachers, we have to take all these tests. There's the CBEST, then you got the RECA, then you got the Ed TPAs, and then you got to do your induction. And there's so much into that. Plus, there's a lot of people who teach within those times to study, right? I'm up midnight studying and on Facebook looking at like all of these groups to help each other pass a test. I'm not a good test taker.
No.
Oh no.
But you study.
But I study. I mean, I feel like I would have to.
Yeah.
I did, but
I never was. I would just go take the test.
Yeah. No.
I'd be blessed to get a C.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, I was just on waivers after waivers after waivers, and here I am, 5 years, and I'm done.
And so now
I'm fully credentialed.
Wow! Yeah. Congratulations.
Thanks.
So this was the first year that you were done?
Done.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah. See, we caught you at the perfect time.
I know.
Back to the timing.
Yep.
Right.
Timing is everything.
And so I'm pretty sure if we would have caught you in between that, you would have been a little maybe more not stressed, but I'd say just more on edge.
Yeah.
Because having to take the test?
Oh yeah, for sure. And it was like a big tension almost.
Yeah.
Like, okay, do I doctor? Do I not doctor?
Oh, okay.
Like that.
So now we all understand that it was definitely the testing and trying to get the credential.
Yeah. Because I think the last time we all hung out together was back in 2021, 22, and I was in the midst of my schooling. I was in my credential program.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I met the Miss Aguilar. That was.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. Well, you never were like, I never assumed or like you were always kind.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I didn't think I saw you enough to say, hey, and then I could tell you when we interacted, it was the first pop-up.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy because I was helping two bougie mamas.
Oh, right? Yep.
And that was when the Inside the Pablo was first being kind of created. I was telling you and your mom, like, hey, I think I want to start this podcast. And you're like, what? That's kind of cool. And I was like, and at the time I had like what I thought I was going to do on like, law enforcement and, inmates, cops, right? Boom, boom, boom. And then the Lord's like, no, we're going to do it this way. Yep. And it's better because honestly, like it's such a variety of topics and people, and it's like you never run out of people to interview. And so I look at it like back to longevity, back to, are we going to be able to do this? And I feel like as long as I'm giving God the glory and it's about him and meeting great people, but at the end of the day, it's about education, information. I want people to get to know you, the community, and in general, I say the Valley, we call it Central Valley Talent. And when I say that is because it is, look at you're breaking it down to everybody. Now the people that are thinking of going into education, doing it, you're letting them know like, hey, there's tests, there's stress. Like, you get you graduate college and you go back basically, and then you go into more, right? Yeah. And so I guess you can say by year 5 is kind of where
things start to be more relaxed. Okay. Right. So shout out to all of the teachers who have to do all these tests.
Yeah. Shout out.
Because you're teaching, you have to walk into this class every single day, leave everything at the door. Yeah. That's like the most perfect saying that I've heard about teachers is leave it at the door. Right. Kids can feel how tense you are. Okay. And so that's hard. Yeah. Going to school, teaching at the same time, there's student teachers who don't get paid. And this is, their hours that they have to do. And plus they got to go back home, do homework, And
then I know I've seen like teachers, I don't want to say anyone in specifics, but I've seen like postings of like, can you help with this? Because, a lot of the teachers don't get provided,
Yeah. That Amazon wish lists are awesome too.
Yeah. I think I saw that this year, some people doing that because like you said, I guess, I mean, we could talk about that too. It was like, do you feel like there needs to be, and I'm not talking about the district in any way in a bad way. Do you feel like that they need to just put more investment? I would say like, cause the teachers have, obviously you guys have to go get a wish list and put out of pocket. Yeah. Do you feel like we need to, I mean, how do you feel about that? Yeah. Without trying to get it like too controversy. I'm not trying to set you up for anything bad. It's because I genuinely care. Yeah. Like I feel like when this podcast does grow, what did you say? I want to give back to my community. Yeah. Same. Yeah. I want to make sure that I'm helping not just autism, but every teacher. Right. But like you said, there's a special place too. Yeah. And in just general, like helping in general, like the kids, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to give back.
I mean, like you gave me this, right? And I called it like a fidget. Yeah. And so all of our kids, they have like a bouncy ball or like little fidgets. And that's, something that people don't know. Like you're like, what's that? Like, what's a fidget? And it's like those things that are inside of your classroom that, okay, you can, buy with your own money. But there's districts who have different fundings inside of their district who are just for special ed. And I mean, I would like to say, but our district is kind, kind, just anything, fidgets. You can do, like pencil grips. There's so much. There we have like kinetic sand that we just discovered the first week of school. Okay. Right. And it's just like those little things that are just so important inside of a classroom that gets kids more involved in learning. And there's so much, there's sand that you can, write letters with and things like that. And it's just, there's so much. Yeah. So much.
No, the reason I say that is because I saw certain teachers posting, right? Yeah. And they're doing the Amazon wish list. Yeah. And so the reason I say that is because, like I said, I want to make sure that the public understands, like, you're not just doing it to just be like, hey, I don't.
No.
There's just so much stuff, I guess, that comes involved with it, right? And
I mean, obviously, you're gonna get like your pencils, your glue, paper, things like that are necessary for being inside of a classroom. But like all the extra things, teachers pay for that on their own with their own money. They're donated. I know my mom did a wish list for me with my family my first year.
Nice.
And we did like a little collection too. It was like, a family member is going to go into teaching. So, we grab little things here and there, and then you build your collection off of there.
Yeah. We could talk about that too a little bit later, like the side stuff you do, because we obviously have the pop-up, right? Yeah. And that's how we ended up talking. Yeah. And it was funny because, I had never really, I said we had come across each other, but that was like our first time really talking. Yeah. And then into your mother too, right? Yeah. And so
she was like, man, that man can talk.
Right? Yeah. And I was like, that's why it's a podcast, right? Yeah. And it's funny because my mother-in-law was like, one day she was like, how are you going to podcast when all you do is talk? And I was like, well, I mean, as a podcaster, you try to listen and you chime in. But they're just, I mean, sometimes you get those guests that just, you got to just do some of the talking, right? And it's funny because I tell people like, as a kid, they were like, dude, that guy just does not stop talking, right? And it's like, look at the Lord's blessing. Like I get to do it for a living now. And so I just look at it. It's funny, right? That's awesome. And I found my purpose. Like I found my purpose really at a young age. Yeah. Because I think it was funny because I didn't talk until a certain age, and then I just didn't stop talking. Yeah. And so it's like ever since then I just been going.
Were you like always a kid in class who like had to sit in the front? Like when you got to that point?
So those good teachers I know named Miss Boynoff, Miss Ward, like I was, come here. Yeah. And you're going to be right here.
I'm watching you.
And then so I was like, why, and so, cause you don't, but it's those teachers that held you, and in a way, like, and they kind of, not that they care for you more than anybody else, but they give you that little extra attention that you don't look at. I'm 37 and I still remember them because they made that big of an impact, and I look at it like when we're, most people are like, it sounds like obviously you've had the backing from your family, which is a blessing, right? And then there's a lot of people that don't, and so I feel like when you don't have necessarily the backing, it's great to have a teacher that you can take, or a coach or a mentor, right? That you can go back to. And I look at it like I've always been blessed to have the backing from my family, but I've also have a lot of good mentors and teachers and coaches that I remember, I think now what I was when I had Coach Moreno on from Fresno City Wrestling, he used to be a former teacher, I think, here in Farball. I was like, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I was like, I was raised a little old school. So I wasn't going to call my coach by their first name. Yeah. And so I noticed some of the kids were calling him George. Yeah. So I had told him, I was like, is that like just a new thing? He's like, yeah, it's more of a new thing with the kids coming up. And I was like, man, I could never imagine calling my coach Alan Clark, right? Yeah. It would have been, what? And run. So it's like, it's just different, right? Yeah. So I want to say, I guess in a way, you kind of being a little younger too, do you notice the difference as far as like the kids in general? Do you feel like, not your kids per se, but being around the kids, that you're in, do you feel like they're like kind of a little more like they'll be a little more talkative?
Yeah,
as far as
for sure.
Being not necessarily disrespectful, but I guess maybe you need that little extra love.
Yeah, there's some times where I'm like walking down the hallway, like, how do you guys know this stuff?
And I think it's because of the obviously the power of the internet,
social media, for sure. Yeah, but like not like in a disrespectful way, like anything like that. I would say
just kind of more advanced.
For sure. Yeah, no,
because that's something that's kind of, I guess, in a way difficult for teachers, because like you said, you're adjusting too. You're like, wait, like you said, how do you know this? Yeah, because I feel like sometimes when I talk to my children, they're asking me questions that they heard in school, and so I'm like, what? Yeah, but it's just, I mean, I'm asking because I never been a teacher, so it's kind of different. But but we'll talk kind of about now. You've been doing this for 5 years, right? And I know you wanted to talk about, prior to the interview coming on, you wanted to kind of discuss a little bit about, or just breaking it down. How do you want to give us a little more information as far as how do kids get, I guess, diagnosed, or do you want to break that down?
I want to pull out my phone for a sec,
for sure,
because I don't want to give any misinformation here. But when the early signs, I would just want to like 6 to 12 months early signs, like the lack of eye contact, like not really much babbling. And I know there's a lot of kids at this, or parents at this age, like calling their kid and they're not looking at them. Like, it's just like you're saying, like, Sabrina, nothing. Right. And I watched a podcast of JWoww, and she's talking about her son with autism. And
from Jersey Shore?
From Jersey Shore.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think he's about 8 now, but she was calling him and he wouldn't turn. So she thought maybe he's deaf, like he can't hear me. So they went to like a specialized doctor and stuff, and like, no, it was autism. So just kind of seeing that, being aware of, okay, well, they're not responding to my name. Can it be something else? Is it autism? I mean, like, not necessarily saying, well, they're not listening to their name, they don't want to, hear me. But then we have the 12 to 18 months. So this is like their screening, making sure that all your kids are hitting those milestones. And if, they're not making that, let your pediatrician know. You have the 18 to 24 months. So that's when they kind of do like their formal like evaluation. And then there's the by 2 years old, kids can get diagnosed, or 3 years old, they can get diagnosed. But early intervention is so important, right? And we have like ABA, and they have these clinicians who can go to your house and say, you kind of set goals for your kids with these clinicians, and they're there to help you.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's people who want to help them with toileting, potty training. So they'll give you all these resources. I've heard of one of where they want to go to a store, being in a social environment, getting out of the house, going into their backyard, things like that. And there's so much help everywhere. All you have to do is just let people listen to your story. Because there's some people who are just kind of like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
I like, there's so much help. So many would love to help, and you just kind of just have to just be open.
Yeah. I think because a lot of parents, I think when I was one of them, I'm not going to sit here and lie and act like I wasn't, like, oh, my kid's not autistic.
Yeah.
No, there's no way. Right.
Yeah.
But then it's like, when you see that they're not advancing, or they're not learning, or they're not picking up their speech, you're like, well, what's going on? Right. And I think when I remember, like, obviously this is when, Louis 16 now, but this is when he was really young, and I remember going to the pediatrician, and I having county insurance, I had private insurance. So I was like, well, I need him to be tested now, immediately, and the doctor was like, no, why? He's not presenting any signs. And so I was like, well, he doesn't speak, and he's not like, my friend's kids. And he's like, that's your first mistake.
Yeah.
He's like, he's not going to be like them, And when I say that, like, my, obviously one of my boys, his little boy just got accepted to go to a D1 baseball. Right. And it's like, well, that kid already naturally had that, and then I looked at it like, as a dad, I just wasn't there to teach him about why he wasn't as advanced. Right. And I looked at it like, as I matured as a parent, you kind of get into, okay, well, and then I think when I kind of met you, I was already into the coaching. Right. We were into getting these boys ready. And so it was like, and it took me a long time to grow to that, because at the time I'm just, and I think I'll never forget when that doctor told me, he's like, well, your kid's not going to be like everybody else's, do not compare. Yep. Exactly. And so I looked at it like, so when Gia was kind of coming up a little bit and her speech was not as, and I was like, I'm not going to compare.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go with it.
Child is different.
And so when the beauty around, and that's why I'm going to give the school district their flowers. Yeah. The second time around, we were prepared as parents. We were like, no, well, we went through this with our son, boom, 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 boom. Yeah. And they were just like very helpful. Yeah. And they started doing the necessary, testing. And so far it's been, I think she's just really shy. Yeah. So if she doesn't know you, she's not going to talk to you. Yeah. Simple, and Lou kind of the same. Like, really, like I was trying to tell you, like, he can be in his room all day. He will, But
he wasn't. He gave me a nice little handshake. He gave, looked at me.
Very proud. Yeah. Because I was trying to explain, like, it's about, so, thank you for that. Yeah. But no, it's kind of, and like I said, I'm a parent too, right? We learn. So I really want people to see this podcast. Remember, it's raw, real, and authentic. Yep. There's not really a script, right? We're just kind of going off of the information. So I told you, we'll just kind of vibe as we go. But is there anything else that you want to kind of touch on as far as the autism goes and as far as teaching that you want to kind of get out there, sort of information?
Yeah. And I feel like more recent, there's been more like acceptance, not even acceptance, but just like knowledge about it.
Yeah.
And I just, it's so cool to see how, you know, I always like to tell my aides in my class, like, we have superpowers. You know, like we were the capes in our class, and without us, you know, when our class would be a mess. You know, class would be a mess.
Yeah.
And it's I love what I do, and I can sit here and talk about all the reasons why, but I want to give a shout out to my aides in my classroom.
Okay.
They're kind of like the main characters. Because without them, I don't know what I would do. They're really are my right ladies. And I say ladies because they're all ladies in there. You know, I'm the youngest. I knew some of my aides when I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow.
And now I get to work alongside her. You know, we're learning new things each and every day. You know, students come into the class with a new liking of something, and you got to do your research on it, and then, you know, you see each other outside and you're, yeah, that's a good choice, you're making a good, you know, like, or, you know, language. And so it's awesome.
Yeah. No, I mean, like you said, full circle moment.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You were, you know, 6 years old.
Yeah.
And they were the aide. Now they're, you know, you're working alongside with them. And that's kind of, like I said, that's another blessing right there. Right. And I feel like when we do something that we love, it's not like you're working.
No.
You know, like I can tell you, like today I got up pumped up. Yeah. You know, because I knew I'm on a podcast. Yeah. You know, and I knew I had two separate. Unfortunately, you kind of came in a little, like, I don't like to do back to back. No, I know, but I don't like to do back to back because I like to kind of take the break, reset the mind, right? Get ready for the podcast. But I mean, it's kind of flowed in pretty natural, right? I mean, and I feel like when you do that, you have to just work. I mean, sometimes I look at it like this, as much as I don't want to do back to back like that. I mean, there's sometimes when I worked as an officer, I didn't want to work a double shift. Yeah. I didn't want to get held over. Yeah. But you have to adjust. Yep. Right. And so I was looking at the gentleman today and I was like, just don't worry about it. We'll make, and then you were very kind. You're like, no, you're good. And so, and you know, I think a lot of people get the misconception of like, they're going to come on the podcast. Well, what are you going to ask me? What are we going to talk about? Well,
I did actually ask you.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. I want them to understand. Like, I
sent you a little DM. Yeah. Okay. Is there anything else?
No. I pre-interview with everybody. Yeah. I like to make sure that, because I had to learn this. Remember, first season 1, I just bring people in here and then we kind of would talk a little bit and then just jump in it. But I learned that if you bring people in, you settle them down, you talk to them, offer them some coffee, some water, go over what we're going to go over. And then, like I said, there's no really, that's why when I asked you right now, when I was talking about the kids, I was like, we didn't go over that. And that's like, don't worry. Like, I don't mean it in a bad way, but see how I was saying it was just flowing. Yeah. Because I noticed as a parent, like, obviously I'm going to notice because I went to school, I was a student. Yeah. That's why when I coached, I would tell like the traviesos out there, like, bro, I was you. So don't, you know, just do your best, you know, but I think that helped me out a little bit too of how to deal with them. Yeah. One, working with a lot of traviesos in the past and being one myself, I'm like, just why are you know, and it's okay. Like, but it's not okay. You know, you can't, I guess, be a travieso, but don't be a bully. Yeah. Right. And so it's just like little stuff. Yeah. And then I think when they see, like, I remember one time, you know, I'm not going to say anybody, but I was coaching the junior high and they had like a little issue. And that was funny because, you know, they get called into the principal's office, right? And so I had to go with them because we were coaching. And so I'm walking and they're both like talking. I was like, well, just tell me what happened. I was like, because if you guys don't tell me and then it comes up in the office, I can't back you guys. I don't know what, you know, just be real with me. And then they're like, all right, well, was this, you know, it's like, man, you guys are such snitches. Like they're joking around, like you guys gave him up too fast, right? And then they're like, whoa. And I was like, no, it's okay. And then we went in there and I loved how the way the principal handled it. Yeah. It was just like, you know, he had pulled me in prior. And then so he was like, I'm going to come at him this way. Okay. Yeah. And it made me feel like, wow, like that's cool that they have that. Right. And, you know, coming in, you don't, like I said, I'm bringing on an officer tomorrow. Yeah. He did the Scared Straight program, 20 years. Okay. But he's like, it's not that, bro. You don't scare them he's like, you talk to them. And I loved how that principal just kind of talk to them and let them know the consequences. Like, do you want to play sports? Do you not want to?
It's just building that relationship.
Yes.
You have to build relationships. You know, when you're a coach, you're a teacher.
Yes.
You know, I have to communicate with everybody. I got aides inside of my classroom. I got the parents. Then I have the gen ed teachers who I have to, collab with. And then I got my principals. And then you got your bus drivers. And you got your custodians. And luckily the custodian is my mom, but
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Another full circle moment.
Another full circle moment. Yeah.
That's amazing.
She cleans my classroom.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And my kids like to call her Miss Michelle.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you guys ever interact with each other?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's some days where I'm just, today is a good day. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I get it. Yeah. There's some days where it's like, sorry, I'm going to go to my room for an hour and just take a nap after work.
Yeah.
And I like to talk about like mental health because as a teacher, that's so important.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My first year, just drowning in paperwork, drowning in your work. We only have one life.
Yes.
Life is so short, and you can take those mental days off. Take those if you want to rest in bed so you can become a better teacher the next day. Do it.
Yeah, that's what they're for, right?
Therapy. I went to therapy, and that's probably one of the best things that I've ever done. You have to have, those, in order to be good inside the classroom, you have to be good within yourself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what they say, you can't love someone else if you don't love yourself.
Exactly.
You can't forgive others if you don't forgive yourself, right? So, no, that I liked how you touch on mental health because that's something that's crucial.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And kind of coming from the world I came from, being where I'm at now, like I didn't realize that a lot of the issues I was having was mental health, right? And I think as a man in general and working in an environment where you have to be so tough, you can't open up, and I think that I've come on here and I've really like expressed certain things and people, are like, how do you do that? And it's like, well, I just don't care what people think anymore. Yeah. And I think there's more people going through what I had to go through, what I'm going through than we think. Yeah. And I think as I interact with people, I've learned you truly don't know what someone is going through. Yeah. Like you can present the smile and you could present whatever you want, like you said. And there could be days where you just go home and you go straight to your room and you just cry yourself or whatever the case may be. You're just in whatever you're in, right? And I look at it like, I wouldn't have known that, right? And how would I know that? So I look at it like, since I don't know, and even though you put a smile and you're like, yeah, it's like, I still want to be as kind as I can, not only to you, but to every other person. Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, it's funny because as I do my walks, right? I've learned like, and I feel like the Lord's telling me this, like, I don't like to tell people good morning sometimes. If I'm in a bad morning, right? I'm just like, dude, I don't want to say good morning. Like, and it's like, I'm walking. And the other day, like, I was like, how was I just crying on this walk and talking to the God? And then, it was like I think it was like the first week and everyone's just like, and on my head, I'm thinking like, you're not even that happy, like, how are you going to be fake? But I was like, who am I right now? Right. And it's like, and then the Lord revealed to me, like, how are you going to be an influencer? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do that? How are you going to push if you're not truly? So I was like, but I'm a human being. Yeah. And there's certain days where if we're feeling some type of way, like you said, maybe don't walk her to school that day. Maybe stay in the car. Yeah. Maybe don't, because if you're not going to want to be polite, right? And say good morning to somebody real fast, it's like, okay, maybe you shouldn't be out then that morning, Exactly. But I liked how you touch on that because I think more people go through that than we think, and 100%. I really we talked about mental health yesterday and it's kind of wild how you bring it up being a teacher. I mean, officer, teacher, different stuff, podcaster. I mean, mental health is so crucial. So important. Yeah. And like you said, therapy. Yep. I mean, it's there for a reason. Yes. And people need to exercise their options as far as, however, like me, I honestly think getting closer to the Lord has been my therapy. Yeah. Right. And that doesn't mean it works for me though. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like you're talking to somebody. That's therapy. Yeah. I had a neighbor, he moved, but when I would go on walks, I guess I would look kind of mad. But it was just like, I was just frustrated. So I would walk and he's like, well, there's Sabrina again going on her stress walk. And I'm like, whoa. Then I had to change my mentality. Like, okay, I'm going on this walk. I am stressed, but also I don't want everybody to see, oh my gosh, she's walking, she's so mad. It was just kind of like, okay, I'm doing this for myself. I'm gonna, go on this walk. I don't have to throw on anything. I don't have to put on any music. I don't have to put on podcasts or, silent. Because sometimes your silent is the best silent.
That's so true.
And just accepting it and just going with it.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's some walks where I'll have my headphones on and I just, like you said, I just clear in the mind, And so now we'll kind of jump into the next kind of like, I feel like we talked a little bit and we can touch back in if you want to. But now how we met, the pop-up.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, I guess, your like, let's say side activities or hobbies, because you do have like kind of a little.
Yeah, I do. I like to say like I'm a teacher by day and crafter by night.
Nice.
I just want to be so creative. Like I think my brain is just on go all the time where I'm just like, okay, well, what can I do for myself, right? I'm giving back to all the people inside of my classroom, but what can I do for myself?
Yeah.
And so 2020, I decided to make clay earrings.
Okay.
I was literally rolling clay like tortillas, right? Okay. So I would make clay earrings, and I named my brand Lynn and Sue. And it's middle names of my grandma and my mom.
Okay.
Two most important people in my life. Without them, they're my rocks. And so I started that, and then I took a little break and I got into charm necklaces. And it was kind of like a summer where I was just like, what am I going to do? My classroom, I can't get to my classroom because my mom's cleaning my floor. She's waxing my room. I can't get in there right now. So what am I going to do? And I like jewelry.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like I like to dress up and, even if I'm going to Target, I want to look cool.
Yeah.
And so I started my charm business and I met so many people. You think of charms, like you see it and you're just like, oh, that's cute. But like there can be a meaning, for it. Somebody with a little baby angel because they had a miscarriage, initial of, their grandparents' last name or, things like that.
Yeah.
And so Alyssa actually, when she did that pop-up, she did like a little talk about your brand and things and like something like that. And so I said, like, every charm has a story, just like everybody has a story, right? And you wear that with pride. And I like to say, like, I kind of wear my stuff with pride because this is me.
Yeah.
So I dabbled into that. And then during summer, I did those brown paper signs, people paint.
Okay.
I did that for like 4th of July. I was just bored one day.
This past
year.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did it maybe like 5 or 6. And then I was like 6 hours deep into this poster. And like, I look back and I'm like, what? That's all I've gotten so far,
You have to show me like off the camera. I didn't know.
Yeah.
That's cool.
That. So just kind of being creative.
Yeah. Cause you cleaned house at the pop-up.
I did.
I remember.
I did.
I was like,
yeah.
I'm looking around. Not saying that nobody else did, but I was like, you were busy the whole time.
Yeah. I'm just like locked in. Like my mom is like, "Okay, you want something to drink? You want something to eat? Nope, good. Let's do it." And you just see all the familiar faces. That's what I liked about that pop-up was like, you just seen everybody come together.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool to see.
No, it was. And
then right next to us was your cousin.
Yeah, Monica.
Yeah.
And Sean.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's why I was initially over there.
Yeah.
Talking
to them.
Yeah, me and Sean, she used to work at the sheriff department, and so it was just kind of catching up, and I was still finding my groove as far as I had just started working at Good Guys. I think I just got manager at Good Guys.
So, yeah.
And so I was like, and I think I was telling your mom, I was like, I don't want to do this for like, and it was a blessing, but I was like, I think I want a podcast. Yeah. And at the time the podcast hadn't really been, it was an idea, like it was already there though. Like we were going to do it. And I wanted to start it in the garage initially because remember this room used to be, this was two bougie mama room. And so like when we were deciding to do it, like little by little, I just kind of started taking over. And so and obviously, hopefully in God's timing, right? I want to push it to the garage because I have the 3-car and I want to make it big. And so I was kind of giving you some ideas off camera that down the road, right? In God's time, I want to be able to bring different people on. So like, cause I was at the school the other day, right? And I went to high school and, once again, and I'm going to give props to the counselor because I was going in, and I know my son can kind of misinterpret words.
Yeah.
But, the younger dad would have went in and and came in hard. Yeah. So I just went in there and I go, so-and-so, I don't want to say anything. So I was like, so-and-so, I was like, I'm pretty sure my son misinterpreted what you said, but he said you said for him to figure it out. He's a sophomore, so he can't even figure out how to clean his room. Yeah. So I'm just here to, how can we make it work, right? And she was very kind, very nice, very helpful. And so I had my number one saying is, closed mouths don't get fed.
Exactly.
And so I said, hey, I would be doing a disservice to my podcast and to the people if I didn't ask if you wanted to come on and do a podcast. And she was like, well, what would I podcast about? And I was like, well, you're 9 years in, right? I don't know if you had Josh Allen, right? Because he's a big star now. I was like, but you can talk kind of about having him. You can talk about, you just told me right now, week 1 was chaos.
Yeah.
And as I think maybe you coming on being a counselor, you can give that to the public so they can understand, like, maybe you're not helping their child, but you got all these kids that you're trying to assist, right? And so I was like, we could talk. And then how did you become a counselor? Yeah. Did you initially want to be a teacher? Mm-hmm. Did you kind of fall into it? Yeah. I mean, and until she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And I was like, cool. And then I'm not gonna lie, I had a name drop a little bit. Yeah. I was like, oh, we just landed the autism teacher, right? And then I go, we got a teacher from Mendota coming on. I go, we've had these people. Yeah. I was like, so it started off this way, but I go, it's more like Central Valley talent.
Yeah. And I like how you do that. You get all these athletes, right? And then you get teachers, and it's just like two different worlds, kind of just, we all have the same problems. We all go through the same thing. We're human. We make mistakes. We grow. We learn. And I think just sharing other people's story, and, I was listening to a podcast before I came, and it's like, wow, I do have a lot of common with these people.
Oh, you listen to ours?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Just you can relate, even though you don't think you are.
Yeah. Well, because I mean, the end of the day, like, I try to like let people know that the Lord is doing this. Yes. This is not because when certain people think of like Louis Gonzalez, right? I'm telling you, like, when I had told you prior, like the guy that came on, you'd be like, there's no way, right? These guys. Yeah. But it's like, well, that's the beauty of the Lord, is he's going to use people that you don't know. Mm-hmm. And I think when your heart is truly pure, like, you just want to make sure that you can't lie. You can't fake it. No. Like, that's what I was trying to tell you. Like, I'm being honest. I'm being 100%. Like, I get up still. I'm a human being. Yep. I do feel, some type of way sometimes. But I'm learning, because I'm looking at it like and I don't feel like by any means I'm not famous or nothing, but I do people look at me sometimes and like, well, he's a podcaster now, right? So he portrays this, so I don't always have to portray that. I mean, I am the way I am, off camera, on camera. I'm the same guy, but I'm, like you said, I might not need to take a day, or like, so what I've learned is if I'm in a bad mood in the morning, I'm not going to get off. Yeah. Tell my wife, unfortunately,
you got it.
Moms have the superpowers, right? Go, you do it, but now that I'm understanding and going through it, I feel like, and the conversations, having it, I liked how, remember I said we just let it flow? Yeah. You brought up mental health. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I can relate to that, because it's like, you go through it. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of crazy, because this morning, one of the officers, both of them, one of them texted me, and an old sergeant of hers, right? He was just on the news, and he just got, I don't know if you watched the news, that was an old sergeant from CDCR, and mental health took him. I mean, he ended up unfortunately, he lost his life because of the incident. And that's where I say, you truly don't know what someone's going through. You don't. And I feel like this podcast is meant to really educational and informational, but I mean, just reality, like just spreading love, because there's so much negativity out there, and there's so many people that are just so fast to jump on. Like, I don't know if you saw, I made a post the other day, and I didn't really want to do it. I was kind of like telling Liz, I was like, should I? Yeah. And she's like, yeah, you already, and I wanted to thank the Farwell Police Department, and then just the first responders and our community, that we were at the park, and a little boy had gotten lost. And I know, and I'm gonna be honest, like, I thought he was on the spectrum, because he comes up to us and he was like, hey, look at my Tesla truck, right? And then just the way he was kind of talking, right? And I was like, okay. And then we were pushing my daughter and my other friend, she was there with her daughter, and they were pushing each other. And while we knew each other, so we started having conversation. And we knew like Alyssa had Gia. So I was like, okay, my girls are good.
Yeah.
So I started talking to my friend. I hadn't seen her in a little while. And so we start having conversation. And then little by little, the little boy wanted his dad to come. And then like it kind of got quiet for a little while. I lost track of time. Yeah. And then the dad's like panicking and he's just walking in circles. So then I go up to him, my experience in law enforcement, I was like, well, how long has your son been missing? What do you think? He's like, I don't know. And I was like, well, you need to call the PD ASAP, because my biggest fear was the little boy was like looking for dirt, right? He was trying to find, and so look where the river's at. And so I'm thinking like, hopefully no, right? And so what kind of touched me was, most of the community members already just started going out and just walking and, yelling his name. And so I noticed like the police came in, and I mean, obviously being in law enforcement, I heard the communication, how they were all talking. I saw the city workers coming out. Like it was just really like great to see.
Yeah. That's some small town love.
Yeah.
And I love that.
And then he ended up just being at the neighbor's house. But at the end of the day, like that was the best of it, obviously the best outcome that could have happened, because the cops were explaining to the little boy, hey, you got to talk to dad, and blah blah blah. And I was just, for me, I was like thinking as a father, what if that was Gia? What if that was Lou? What if? And so I was just like, wow. And then so I did that little post, because at the end of the day, like I feel like we bash, certain, like, and I don't want to just say, oh, but like law enforcement doesn't have a good rap. And I was like, I saw the care in the officers. And I felt like when I talked to the corporal initially on duty, and then the younger officers, like you could just tell like they wanted to find that little boy. And it made me feel like, man, like that's our community, and even me being from Mendota, it doesn't matter. Like I live in Faribault now, and a small town, I feel like, and so it just felt good to be, and I wanted to make sure that I gave the love. And same thing with like, as I bring on the teachers and I bring on the counselors or whoever I bring on, I want to make sure that we're giving you guys your flowers. Like people need to understand, like, you guys, like now, like I would have never known that you went through that, and the struggle. And I think people now, and now look at, you are very like, I guess I never really realized that, but every time I see you, you're always like, hey, and it's like, and now there's this, it's not as stressful. Doesn't mean you're not going to have days.
And
because like, I'm obviously, like I said, every student, and then obviously every kid has a different form of autism, right? I mean, because there's like pretty much like
different levels, to severe, and just kind of just fits right into what you're kind of talking about, is everybody's like different and they all learn differently. I was just, again, going back on TikTok, and there was a mom on a podcast saying, without teachers, like, I don't think I would have this help at home. I'm so accepting, and I had this hopes of my child when he's older. Right. And the teachers are supporting, the student or the child. And it's like, we all want one goal. Like you said, everybody helping out. No, that's small town love. I mean, you're going to get that everywhere, but I feel like even more here, every road leads to home.
Yeah. And then if you think about it, I brought on Mike Daniel, and he does like the Cal Ripken.
Yep.
Right. And then, so like, I'm trying to make sure that we get, and I'm going to continue to try to bring on all, like I brought on the Moms in Prayer. And like that just kind of happened. Like Linda was my neighbor, and then Linda Espinosa is my wife's cousin. So it's like, you know what? And like you said, I'm almost getting my full circle moments. Sometimes I'm like, wait, what? And so it's kind of cool. Like I never really interacted, like I said, with the community in general, like especially Faribault, because I've always in a way felt like I was, the rival, right? And then now it's like, I tell my buddies that are from Mendo, like, hey bro, it's like, well, Lou literally was from preschool all the way to where he's at now. So he's from Faribault, and so I remember too, like I think I was thinking so much of myself when I was considering, or when, the option was there to possibly go be a teacher there. And when I didn't know that didn't happen, once again, on God's timing, God's protection, Lou was so relieved. Cause like, obviously I was like, you're going to go with me if I go. Yeah. Cause I was like, how am I going to like teach here and you're in sports? I'm not going to see you. Like, nah, I'm going to put you over here. And he's like, so when I didn't, and it didn't happen, he was like, I felt like the weight off his shoulders. He's like, I got to go back. And, at the end of the day, his friends are here. He's grew up here. He knows these kids. So it's like everything happens for a reason. And I used to look at it as like, rejection is God's protection. There's always something bigger for you. Right. And so no, like, and so, but back to real quick to your little, I want to talk about your charms. So like, you selling now? Are you doing posters now? Are you still doing charms? Are you still doing pop-ups?
I kind of stopped doing that for a while. I mean, it was fun at the time and I got to meet a lot of people. I did a few pop-ups in Fresno and I met a lot of, good friends there. But I think I'm in a new relationship. So I'm
congratulations.
Thanks. I'm building that and, taking time to myself. This summer, that's kind of like our recharge time is summertime.
Yeah.
You just got to recharge and then you just kind of just full force after that. And that's what I'm kind of doing now is I'm kind of stepping back on, being creative and kind of working on myself, working on my relationship and, building the relationships that I have now.
Yeah.
And I've kind of stepped back with that, which I mean, maybe in a year or two, you're going to see me doing something else because I'm just always like that. I just always want to like step into something and I just want to be creative. But for right now, it's on hold. I may go back into it. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess I'll ask kind of a personal question. It wasn't in the interview, but since we're talking about it, relationship is the goal eventually to be, a parent? Do you want to be a mother?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
No, I said something. We had a little promotion for our second graders. We always like to do things together in our school, but I kind of want to, focus on our kids for a bit. And, me and the teacher at the time, we're not moms, right? We're young. We're 27, 26 years old, no moms at all. And I said something like, thank you for trusting us. You bring your kids to school every day, and I want you guys to know that, they're in good hands. I'm learning and I'm growing, and eventually that's the end goal. And I'm just in a perfect job to where I can see a mix of everything. We're in PE and we're with, kindergarten, first grade, and I can build relationships off of that. But I can also build relationships with my kids who are nonverbal.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's just so awesome to see. I have students using, picture cards to communicate, or there's iPads, there's gestures, they're blinking their eyes, or they're shaking their head, or they're laughing. Like that.
They're somehow communicating with you. Yeah.
And but one day, God's timing.
I like that. Yeah. Isaiah 60:22.
Yep.
So do you want to continue to do the group you're at now, or do you ever see yourself advancing or following, maybe going to the high school level one day, or do you think you're going to stay? You don't know?
I think I'm good where I'm at.
Yeah.
I would love to eventually, but
back to God's timing.
These kids just have my heart.
Yeah. I could see it.
Smell. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's something, like I told you, if you wake up every day with a purpose, like why switch it up? If you already know that that's what you're there to do, especially now that you know that the weight is off as far as the testing and all the credential stuff, right? Yeah. And now you actually just get to be a teacher,
right?
And just go and do.
It's so awesome to just go and do what you love.
No, I'm telling you, like it's like we
wouldn't even be sitting here right now.
No,
not at all.
I would be a very angry manager at Good Guys. No, I'm I tried to, because I would look at it too.
Oh, you got some of your old coworkers like, dang, maybe he was.
No, I try to so I looked at it like this. This is about experience.
Yeah.
I saw good management and I saw bad management. And I'm here to say that I'm thankful to have both, because it taught me how to be a leader.
Right.
And as I grow with Inside the Pod with Lou, and as God blesses me down the road in his timing, if I eventually get big to where I have to have employees, I look at it now like I try to treat the people that are helping us now, like my editors and the camera guy and the gentleman that's helping us, like kind of like our social media team. He don't like to be called manager. So I look at it sometimes as like I can be a little like demanding. And then I look at it like, well, and then I always make sure I thank them.
Yeah.
Like, no, hey, I really want to say thank you for, without you guys, like Inside the Pod with Lou does not run.
Yeah.
Because if I don't get my videos edited, they're not going to come out.
Nope.
If I don't get you to, help me out with doing this or getting the social media started and all this, it doesn't happen, and I'm going to give a shout out to my wife.
Yep.
Listen, if she's not doing the setup, if she's not doing the she does a lot of the editing too. And it's like, it's a team effort. And I feel like I've at Good Guys, I would say, okay, if you come on, right, once again, start your day, and I'm right here chewing you, because you were a minute late, 2 minutes late, your day's gonna get bad.
You're setting yourself up for a bad
day. So
like
I would, I mean, obviously if it's like constant, I'd tell like, hey Sabrina, like, is there something that you want to talk to me about? Should I put you on at 9 compared to 8? I mean, you know,
so you can have your coffee.
Like, you're late every day, you know, like, I mean, help me out here. And so then I think that kind of helped, you know, and then honestly, they'd come to my office sometimes, and I would back to, you never know what someone's going through. I'd hear and I'm like, oh wow, well, if you didn't communicate that with me, I wouldn't have known. But I felt like, so when I left, my guys were like, why? And it's like, it's just, and you know, I love that I got to meet you guys, and I love that I got to meet certain my customers, but it was, you know, the podcast is what I'm meant to do, kind of like, you know, you being.
Yeah. And I always talk about like paths, right? You go through your life and you meet certain people, and then you think, why did I meet them? You know, and it's just
seasons.
God's timing. In seasons change, you evolve, you know, but you talked about leadership, and I think that's a really good word. You know, inside of a class, inside you're a parent, you need to be a team, right? At home, you got to be a team with your wife.
Covenant.
At my house, you know, you got to be communicating, you know, you can't just be, okay, work, you know, you got to push and pull sometimes. And my team, in any team, really, you got to have that support.
Yeah.
And you just got to just lean in. And sometimes you have to be vulnerable. And sometimes a lot of people don't like that. But again, if you didn't know, or if you didn't say anything, you wouldn't know.
Yeah. And then same thing with leaders too. Like, I've learned from some of the best leaders, right? I'll give a shout out to a lot of the, you know, I won't say specific names, but a lot of the people at the sheriff department that were my superiors, they know who they are. They would like listen and be like, okay, that's a great idea. Let's do it. Yeah. Right. And then it made me feel more empowered, because at the time I was just a little young up and coming officer. Right. So then when I became, you know, a leader, I started telling, like, say you came in and you gave me an idea, and I'd be like, that's a great idea. Yeah. Let's try it. Yeah. You know, and then if it doesn't work, well, we learn from it. Right. And then just little stuff. And
you've got to bounce back ideas.
And so sometimes leaders doesn't mean that you always have to be the one in charge. You could always sometimes take a little step back. And that, to me, that's a sign of an even better leader. Yeah. And maturity, like you said. And it comes in timing. It's about experience. Like you being 27, can you imagine being the teacher you are now when you first started?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you grow, you know, like I could even tell you from meeting you from 2022 to now, I already see the growth, you know, and it's like, it's amazing to see, knowing that we have, because I think that, you know, becoming a teacher in general, not just, and especially autism teacher, the patience, right?
You have to have that.
You have to have the patience. And I feel like you kind of seen it, you know, and it's like, it's great to, you know, like, and to really see and know that.
Also having patience within yourself too.
Yeah.
You know, like with me, I was like, go. I have to graduate, right? I remember I would go to the counseling office at Fresno State, and they tell me, you got 3 more years. You got so many semesters. And I'd be on the phone with my mom crying, I'm going to be here for a long time, you know, not knowing COVID was going to happen. I was going to graduate the same day as the class before me, you know, and it's just timing, I guess.
Yeah. And that's kind of like great that, you know, we talked about. And then look at well, today's verse you pulled from Jeremiah 29:11, like the plans I have for you, it's about your future.
Yep.
And so timing and future. But with that being said, I mean, is there anything else you kind of want to talk about, or anything that you want to end the podcast with? No. I
think that's it.
I mean, we did great. Yeah. I mean, you know, I always tell people, like, think of it as a part 1.
Yeah.
Because we could always go back, watch it. And then you can always be like, hey, I want to talk about this, or hey, we didn't talk about this. And it's like, okay, well, we'll bring you back on, and then we can kind of go from there.
I do want to say, you know, there's so much support, so much love within the autism community. And again, I'll say it again, if you met somebody with autism, you met somebody with autism. Doesn't change anything. You just got to love them just a little bit harder, just like how you love everybody else.
Yeah.
You got to be kind. You got to just be patient, accepting is huge. And if you have to have that in order to move forward in anything.
Hey, do you think that obviously being an autism teacher and kind of growing into it, do you view the world way differently now? Does it, like, because you said, I think you told us about the Ulta
Yeah,
story,
yeah.
and then do you notice that now as you kind of go around everywhere
everywhere I go, it's just, but then again, you get some people that are kind of embarrassed, kind of like, oh, you can't live that way.
Yeah.
Accept it.
I think one of the things I saw one time was parents were like, well, I can't ever go to the movies because, they're going to do this and this and that. And I was like, who cares?
No.
You paid.
Yep.
Like everybody else. I mean, if it's that bad and the people in there, they can get their money back leave. And they can go get their, go another show or something. But that should not necessarily stop you from trying to let your kid live a normal life, right? I mean, I think it's a little different on my end because, like I said, I have family and friends that, have children on the spectrum. And just like I said, when I'll say, like, when those children come up to me, it just makes me feel like, I don't know, I feel so like loved.
Yeah.
Because like
it's genuine love.
Especially like when I know that they don't really go and hug other people, and the parents or my family members will be like, they don't do that to a lot of people.
They just sense you. It's just all about.
It makes me feel like, wow, okay, hey, I know I'm a better person now. And 2020, whatever, you probably wouldn't have hooked me, So it makes me feel like, thank you, Lord. Like that's a blessing, And it makes me just want to continue to strive to be a better person. Yeah. Because like I said, I apologize if I don't say good morning, but I'm working on it, right?
Yep.
And it's just about admitting, like I think with me, like I don't really care what anybody thinks no more. I truly don't. Yeah. Obviously, you see I'm being vulnerable on the podcast, but at the same time, I want to be awareness as far as like when I say I do care, I care about like how do you perceive the way. I don't want you to feel like I'm just being a false prophecy, or I'm just here to just talk. And I can honestly care less if the podcast where I become famous. Right. That's not the goal. Yeah. The goal is to like, if we reach 1, if we reach 2, if we reach 3, I mean, that's a blessing. Yeah. Like I was trying to tell you, like one of our videos blew up to the day like 17,000 views. I'm like,
and I think too is I'm going to go back to like my TikTok, right? I love to have all these cool outfits. And I thought, I live in a small town. I see all these people. What are they going to say? Are they going to look at me any different? Like, oh, this girl, what? I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
And I started like this like a series. My brother was last year, football season. And I dressed in outfits and I posted it.
I did see some of that.
And then I got, some people like, oh, I can't wait to see your outfit next week. And then it's like a mood boost.
Yeah, positivity.
Yeah, you just got to just lift each other up. And that's just in anything, in your work life, in your home life.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because some people hit me up now. They're like, hey, you don't do your TikTok videos more, bro. And I'm like, honestly, it's because I'm so busy with the podcast that like I knew like, okay, I'm figuring it out. Like, I don't like going live.
Yeah.
I don't like it, because I just don't like it, and with the videos, like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think as I grow into this more and right now, like today I took on 2, tomorrow I have 2.
Yeah.
Wednesday I have 1, right? And then Thursday, Friday is more like personal, doing fantasy football drafts, right?
Okay. Mental health.
Yep. Right? And then Saturday is my niece's birthday, right? So then Sunday, I'm trying to take Sundays off, but then it's like if certain people are hitting me up, it's like, say, for example, you, right? Being a teacher, even though you're like, oh, most times it's like, oh, well, some teachers won't, if they work all day at school, they're not going to want to come after
on the
school.
Weekends,
They give me on the Saturday or Sunday, right? And so it's like, okay, I'll take on a Sunday if I have to, but I'm trying to take those days off going forward. And I'm like you said, if it's meant to be, it'll align when it's supposed to.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I'm thinking now you're motivating me to come back and bring back the TikTok, those videos I used to do, because I think people would, I almost like they got used to them. They were already, they kind of like were, hey, but it's like this thing, remember it took off and I was like, what am I going to do? It's like now so I think I just got to, once again, balance. I like that. Consistency. But yeah, no, I want to thank you for coming on. It was, I felt like all my podcasts are always better than I expected, you know? And with this one, I'm going to be honest. I just was like, you know what? I want you to make sure we talk about what you want to talk about. And I apologize for putting you on like 2 questions that were like kind of, but I thought that was more, kind of. Because I remember I told you I was trying to be a viewer. Yep. At the same time, an interviewer.
Yep, you did say that.
So, all right. With that being said, we start every podcast with a Bible verse and end with the same Bible verse. And today's verses came from Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. They are plans for good and not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. And the other one was Romans 8:18. And that word of God states, yet what we suffer now is nothing compared to the glory he will reveal to us later. Romans 8:18. And with that being said, I want to thank you, Miss Aguilar, for coming on and giving us potentially part 1 of a podcast. Yep. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All righty.